Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Crash, and we're here to our fifth edition of ranking every weekly Shonen Jump new series from best to worst this year of 2025. How we do this? Well, I read every new series that comes out of the year. I make my own list, and then I ask these two guys with me to do their own lists. One of them is Axel Blaze. He's the guy that you can see.
Hello. Yes, and you should probably put an asterisk behind that crash of like, oh, I read all the new mangas. Like, you tell us to read all the manga, and then we have to wait for you to finish them.
I do read them eventually. I actually am recording for a video that will probably come out in like middle of next year. Um, my journey
Dang.
of catching up to Shonen Jump again, because I'm like 100 chapters behind on Roboko. uh, and more. You'll see eventually when it comes out. The other person that I asked to read is Trenton Art, which is the guy you can see the logo, and you probably
Hey,
know.
you can imagine me waving.
Yeah, with Zax on his hand. So yeah, all of us make our own lists from best to worst, and then, actually not then, before that, I ask you guys to vote for which is your favorite manga, which is your least favorite manga, up to 3. I post on a bunch of social media, and for every time someone votes for a manga for favorite, it gets 1 point. For least favorite, it gets a -point. Tally them up, make a voters list, join all the 4 lists together, and have one final list, which is what we're gonna go through today. And I think this year is the most wildest year in terms of the difference between everyone's lists. Normally, I feel like we agree. We do agree. There is one single manga which everyone has voted for the same place. What I find funny is that it's not the last one and it's not the first one. We somehow all agreed on one position of a random manga. And
Now, when you say we, are you referring to us three and the voters, or
Mhm.
just us?
No, no,
That okay? That's
everyone.
fascinating. I mean, I'm not surprised on the top one because I can already tell. Obviously, like we've been doing this for this is the 5th year now. Like we know each other's tastes to a point, so I know where we differed with number one compared to the audience. But like that is that really is insane. That is just that all over the place.
It is. And we did talk briefly about this, but I do believe it's because we do have like a clear bottom that someone decided to disagree and a clear top that someone decided to disagree. But everything in between is, I feel like this year hasn't been too different in terms of at least reception and quality to a degree. Yes, there's some manga that I think are worse than others, but I think for overall they haven't been too bad or too good. That is my opinion. I'm not sure if you guys agree.
It's been a weird year. I've enjoyed. I can't say a lot of them were amazing though.
Yeah.
I would say, honestly speaking, because again, we've been doing this for 5 years at this point. There is part of me feels like this has been the weakest year that we've done these. Um, there's just a lot of stuff that was just kind of average or worse. Like, and that's not necessarily a bad thing to be like an average series. Like, not everything can be a winner, but when you have Shonen Jump only publishing like 10 to on a really crazy year like 15 new series, like it kind of stinks when a lot of them are just blah. So I mean, like just going off of la- obviously we had 13 new series, so 13 series had to end last year. of the 13 that ended last year, 2 of them were Mission Yozakura Family and Undead Unluck, which we can say were not axed. They ended, as they should. The debatable one is Kill Blue. Like, I just, again, with how that series ended, that was definitely an axed kind of ending because it was like a hurry up and finish. But at least past that, 10 series were axed. Like, axed.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were ones that had, like, started and ended last year.
But I feel like it's normally the case, right? We have so much of these series that get canceled, and because of that, I feel like, which was the point I was saying, like if there's a lot of series that we may actually think they're good or whatever, because they're cut off so fast, they still end up being a little bit average. But I feel like even compared to that, this year I feel like it's been a bit lower. That is my opinion.
I think I could agree to that. Another thing I noticed is in the last 2 years, a lot of the cancelled series have just been neatly put into 2 volumes. Just looking back, I saw a lot more like 3 and 4s in the years prior, but now it really feels like they're pigeonholing a lot of series into these like 2 volume chunks, whether they be like 17 chapters, like some that ended this year, or a little bit more. So I wonder how that will affect things going further. But what it does mean is a lot of the series we did get this year really didn't get to stretch their legs much, which I guess we'll end up talking about.
So let's actually jump into the list. I did had like an intro done or thought up for our number 13, the bottom of the bottom, because I was pretty sure everyone was going to agree on number 13. But no, someone had to ruin it.
I wonder who it was.
Yeah, so on number 13, it is Nice Prison. It got 9 positive votes, so there's 9 people that do enjoy Nice Prison out there. It is actually not the manga with the least amount of positive points. We will get to that. But it did got negative 338 votes, which we got a bit over 400, like 470 votes. Which means that a lot of people had this as their least favorite. So it got number 13 on voters list. It got number 13 on my list. It got number 13 on Trenton's, and it got number 12 on Axel's list. There is one manga that Axel hates more than Nice Prison, and you'll have to wait not too long, but a bit before we get there. So yeah, Nice Prison. I said this, I think on my video for the first chapter, and I kind of agree that and I still agree with it, that is, this feels like a Korokoro comics in so many ways, which if you haven't read it, any Korokoro comics, they are filled to the brim with jokes to make sure that the 5-year-olds that read the manga are, still reading and not distracted with something else. And feels like Nice Prison is trying to do the same. It just throws so many jokes out there, and the majority of them are not funny. I will admit that I did laugh maybe like 3 or 4 jokes throughout the entire manga, which, I mean, it's something. But overall, with the amount of jokes that they put, it's still a very negative ratio of unfunny jokes. But the thing for me that kills it is the cast of characters that, Nice Prison, if you haven't read, it's incredibly like surreal, and every character is like extremely over the top, and the manga is able to make none of them, or the majority of them, like unremarkable. Like they're not memorable at all, which I think is bad when you are able to build like such a out there design with such an out there characteristic, and they're still forgettable like a panel or two later. I think it's a talent, in my opinion. And the main character, which is not the model prisoner, but the guard, which Adachi, was her name?
Yeah.
Yep.
Got it. I got one name. uh, I feel like she is probably the worst example of a character that is doing nothing throughout the majority of this series. Like, she is there to react to the jokes, but none of, like, she doesn't act on anything. Like, she could be removed from the story, and I'd say 99% of the story would still be the exact same. So yeah.
She's supposed to be the straight man character, but
Hmm.
she adds nothing to the straight man character. Which that's the thing. Like when it comes to comedy, when you have a straight man character, they have to have a good reaction to the one that's being the absurd one,
Yeah.
or it just lands flat. If you're just explaining the joke or just
Yeah.
it's not good.
I would remember like Mori King is the kind of the one where I always found like the girl like extremely funny. I mean, extremely is an exaggeration, but pretty funny, at least even compared to the character of Mori King at times.
Yeah, with the Dachi as well, I felt like a lot of the straight man reactions were just like, "Oh, that kind of happened," or like, "Why did that happen?" And that is the pervading feeling. You're like, "Why did that happen? That wasn't funny." So this year I did read some older Jump manga. I read Sexy Commando Gaiden, and I reread Shigetsu again,
Oh yeah, you
which
did.
reminded me of Bobobo. And
Same
I'm
here.
yeah, those series were a lot more memorable, but I feel like there is a similar comedic approach here where they're shotgunning a lot of jokes off. But those series utilize like their concepts and settings a bit more, and the nice prison doesn't, it being in a prison, I feel barely comes up. Like it doesn't utilize it enough for its jokes, and quickly it will abandon the whole prison concept by just putting other things in the prison, which I feel is really lazy.
Like a full
That's,
city.
yeah, like a full city. That's kind of that should be funny. I
The
want to
full
say,
city I didn't mind as much because like that literally was the most absurdist thing. But like
Mm,
they
yeah,
had the
yeah.
different levels of the prison, like where that I agree with that point. It's just like you do all of these random things so that when we get to the point where one of the prisoners literally remade a city, it doesn't land as hard because it's like, okay, well we've just had, you know, all this stuff up to this point.
I did write down what is up with the fisting, the whole like malignant polyp joke. I
Yeah.
absolutely hated. I really didn't find it funny. Um, I don't know. I guess it's a gross out humor.
Yeah, it's one of
But
those jokes that.
that's
No, go
oh
ahead.
sorry, I was gonna say like
There was just a lot of
that
it.
was one of the confusing points for me. It was just like, okay, who is this made for? Who are these jokes made for? Because no, like a random kid is not going to know what a polyp or a colonoscopy is. Um,
Yeah.
as someone that worked in a GI job for years, I know what that is. And even then, I was just like, this is gross. Please never again. But like, it's just one of those things where it's just like, okay, I don't think you know who you are catering to, and because of that, you're not finding a good middle ground, and just, ugh. So me not putting this in the bottom is it's not me defending Nice Prison. It is still awful. Like it is not a good series. It is definitely a very poor man's Bobobo. Still better than Chigecha because Chigecha is just an absolute abomination of a series. Like awful, awful, awful. Um, but it just every time that this series had the potential to do something to make it interesting for me, I think that it failed, and that's what really sucked. Like even with like the main villain, like finding out the reason why he ended up in prison was so dumb. You have all these opportunities to do all these like absurd things, and the the main villain, who is his dad, has the boring reason for why he's in prison and his wife died and all this. Like, no, bad, 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 bad. Just bad decisions across the board. But the one reason, the only reason that this is not my bottom series is because this was a gag series. This was intended to be a funny series that did not land. But it was still trying to be that thing, and like it was still making an attempt, as poor as that was. There is one series that I consider to be like the worst series from Shonen Jump that I have read in the last decade, like hands down. And this was not it. It's close. It's very close. But like at least this was still trying to be a gag series and like succeeded here and there. The one that I consider the worst, I don't have positive things to say about it.
But it's not the next one, actually.
I figured because of yeah.
I well, we'll get to that. Number 12 is Ekiden Bros. It actually is the manga that got the least number of positive votes, with number 8. It had negative 228, so a total of negative 220. It was number 11 on the voters list. It was number 10 on Axel's. It was number 8 on Trenton's, and it was number 12 on mine. And I don't know, kind of like the reason why I ranked it below a couple of others is the struggle that I had to read that. Like when I was trying to like catch up with the manga, that was the one that made me pause for a bit. Just because I don't think it is like awful the same way that Nice Prison is. I just think it's very boring and dull, especially compared to a couple of other sports manga that we did had this year. And kind of like the main thing to me was the main character, which the motivation for him to join Dekiden or track and field, it's not track and field, it's forgot the name in English.
It's
Relay?
essentially
Relay.
like cross country running, or
Mhm.
it's long distance running, like
Yeah.
long. It's not on a track and whatnot. It's on like actual like roads, paths, things like that. So it's similar to marathon running.
Yeah, like a relay marathon, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was the word I was looking, the relay. Which I get to there. But kind of like the reason I get the point where he's, in the dorms, he meets all these people that practice the sport, and of course he wants to, admires them and wants to join them. But the whole point that they try to make, like, he is afraid to start until he isn't, I guess, is, I feel like, forced. Because why are you afraid to start? Like, I understand that you see a lot of people like they're much better than you, but also you have all the resources, you have all the trainers, you're able. That's why. I mean, I'm not sure if that's why he improves, but he
well,
improves very fast. Yeah.
don't forget that you're missing, because I know you mentioned all the guys, but I don't think you mentioned the fact that his dad was the coach of
Yeah.
that team and his mom was the dorm mother. So
Yeah.
literally all of them are in this space, and I'll talk about it a little bit more myself later, but like we learn kind of why he was hesitant like halfway through the manga in a very bad way.
Yeah. And yeah, but again, basically, he's basically a nepo baby of Ekiden. um, and then it like he beats the other dude who's his friend, who's like training hard and for years. And I said this at the beginning when I reviewed the first chapter again, but like it's hard to cheer for the main character because of the conditions. Like, you know, you kind of cheer for the other dude. Um, and then I feel like the concept of, it's relay sport, it's a team sport. I feel like that wasn't used as well as it could have. I feel like obviously they're running one by one. It's not like football or football or basketball where they are all together. But I feel like it missed an element of teamwork and building up a team. I don't know. And we do meet other characters, but I feel like it missed that.
No, I agree. It's one. There's a lot of stuff that like they they established some very good things in the first chapter, but then it's just like, oh, Nobunaga decides I'm going to go to a completely different school, so let's just throw away the support system and everything that he has because he wants to compete with everybody. Um, and it's funny to me that the title Ekiden Bros became both figurative from the start and then literal because, and I don't care about spoilers at this point. Like, this series ended a while ago. If you didn't finish reading it, that's on you. But like, they decide, oh, guess what? He actually has a brother who we did not know about up to this point in time. And apparently, there's also drama with this brother and the dad that we did not know about. And like, it feels so forced, and it does not feel good. I I realized that our mangaka wanted to do this stuff from the get-go, and essentially he was told like, hey, we're wrapping it up in 2 volumes, so you more or less have to throw in the stuff that you wanted to do, but it still doesn't feel great. um I will at least say, and part of the reason why this was at number 10 for me instead of being lower, the one positive that I can say is that it kind of had its two on ice moment in the second half of the series, where all of a sudden the art just like majorly improved. um and that was really cool. Like, had we had more of that from the get-go, it might have been better. But I do think that the art style was a major sticking point for a lot of people, where it's just like, I myself, I really didn't care seeing all these noodly armed guys with their their very samey faces, kind of. It just it's unique for being a running series in Shonen Jump. Like, there's not a lot of running series in general, and you can kind of tell why, because it's a hard thing to make it consistently interesting. It just failed to meet the mark.
Yeah, I don't think the art style was the prettiest. Also, don't mind it too much. I do think this manga had some pretty decent like double spreads. I think
Yeah, there's some good ones.
yeah, a lot of them. I think it used a lot of double spreads, and I think a lot of them were pretty cool.
Yeah, you need to like convey distance with running, and it's a good way to. Um, I definitely agree with like a lot of what's been said. There's a lot of just inconsistent or writing elements that didn't quite come together. Although I did kind of enjoy the novelty of just some of its ideas and the concept overall. I think why it's so high for me, or at least like number 8 instead of like lower down, is what it did was it introduced me to Ekiden, which I didn't know about before, and it got me interested. And I thought it was pretty compelling. And I think for a sports series, that's a pretty important thing, at least for me. Like if I get into something like Haikyuu and it makes me think about volleyball and look into it, I would deem that a kind of success. The passion for the sport has been conveyed to me, and I definitely felt the passion that the author had for Ekiden. So all of that, like, definitely propelled it a bit higher. There was also some just cool moments with Matoi, the kind of leader character of Nobunaga, the protagonist. club. Yeah, it's a club, I guess, or team, that I really liked. His final race was really cool. There was also just attempts to do interesting things. I don't think they went over too well, like especially at the end with the two brothers and like their dad and how overbearing he was and wasn't properly like looking at them as his sons and instead just kind of runners. It didn't all come together perfectly, but I at least saw something there which
I, I
is more for than some.
I was gonna say I genuinely think it would have served the manga better had they introduced that drama in the first chapter,
Probably,
because
yeah.
at least as it is, it just makes it feel like the character, oh, I just wanted to compete against my like not real brothers and my actual brother. But like, okay, so what, the drama with your dad didn't play any part in it, but all of a sudden it
He now
does play a
does,
part?
yeah.
Like, it's one of those things where like, and whether or not this was just the mangaka's decision, whether there was like editor influence in that or not, and we'll never truly know because like that stuff is never relayed to the public and whatnot. It's something that hopefully he learns from and he's able to implement that better in the future, because there's potential there. It just wasn't met in this series.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let's get into the one then. On number 11 is Goron Heg. It got 23 positive votes. It got negative 246, so a total of negative 223, and make it number 12 on voters list, which is a bit lower than Ekiden. It was number 9 on my list, and it was number 13 on Axel's list, and it was number 3 on Trenton's list.
Leave. You're banned from this video. Go away.
Yeah, I mean, look, we had what, 2 battle shonens this year? Otter, Goron, Kedegami, I guess, as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, I do believe.
And the sequel.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I do have things to say about that. I do feel like Goron Heg and Otter of the Flame are very similar in a lot of ways, but Otter has been able to improve because of the amount of I think also because of the amount of chapters that it had. I think the later half of that manga is much better than the first. Goron hasn't had that chance yet, and what we've had so far, I do think it's pretty generic. I don't think it's the worst manga I've read this year, much less the worst Shonen Jump manga I've read. Since we started these videos, or since I started reading Manga Plus, I think it's a bit far from that. I can think of like at least 10 manga that to me are worse. But I think it is a bit generic. I don't think I care too much about any of the main characters. The new organization that they added out of nowhere, I'm also not really keen into. I do like the art style. I've seen a lot of people hate the art style, and I will say I think it lacks a little bit of depth. I think it lacks a little bit of that, which can be a problem. But there are some pages, I think especially the first chapter, like that double spread, I've mentioned it. I do believe it's beautiful. I do think there's really some cool art style. I think I do like the design of some of the Drakarks. I don't know how to pronounce their names. I never have. And Goron's transformation as well. To me, so far the main problem, which can be solved, but the main problem is that we have this idea of the Drakarks being evil, and we have the hag Oma as being kind of like the opposite. Like he's proof, so to speak, that they're not all evil. but we've seen a bunch of them, and it's not like the Promised Neverland when we're they're eating people, because it's almost like a comparison to humans, the way we treat some animals, and so there's some moral gray morality there. In here, no, they're all like very evil. Every single drug arc that you meet so far is very evil. I don't trust the egg though. That's my thing. I think he's evil too. And if that's the plot twist, I'll like this manga a lot more. But I'm not sure if it is. But so far I don't trust him. But yeah, I'll sit back and let you guys discuss.
I can describe why it's so high for me. It definitely isn't the best thing in the world, and I think, like Crash says, it's a pretty like average, subpar battle series. The thing with that though is, I'm a fan of Shonen Jump, so I do like battle series, and I think this is just a case of the flavors are right for me. One of the biggest things is just its setting and aesthetic. The artwork, completely understand why people have some issues with it, and there are like some actual fundamental issues which Axel might bring up. But I like how it looks. I think the designs are really cool, like Crash said, and it feeds into where it kind of is. This isn't a Exorcist battle series set in present day, and it's not an older kind of fantasy series either. It's a post-apocalypse series mixed in with these like angelic, draconic, eldritch entities, which feels pretty unique. I don't feel like we've had anything quite like them, at least for a while. Although you could just say that like reskinned whatevers. I do think they're pretty cool. It also extends to like Oma and him being untrustworthy. I really hope that's a payoff for something, because Oma's abilities, like transforming Gonron, making him eating hearts, and making Gonron shoot like poison mist from his mouth, sound pretty evil. I hope there's some kind of weird payoff twist to all of that, because it feels like there will be. And if there's not, then it's just kind of cool. I've just enjoyed all of that so far. Gonron and Oma as well, I just kind of like. I don't think there's an exceptional amount of depth to them, but their little relationship, them kind of caring for each other, this little boy carrying around an egg is just my kind of protagonist. It reminds me a bit of Ral Grad from the early 2000s. Kind of similar vibe there with a little boy and creepy shadow monster thing. There's a lot that could happen, but it just kind of hasn't happened yet. It could be a bit repetitive with all of the Drakkar killing, but I feel like we're moving somewhere now with the introduction of the Human Defense Force, or the Drakkar killing force, whatever. I think that edgy looking character is again like, oh, I kind of like this guy. He's kind of cool. Most of my love for Gonron is just vibes. It is not exceptional by any means. I just kind of enjoy it week to week.
It's valid.
I hate this manga with a burning passion. Absolutely despise it. I genuinely, it's not the worst thing that I've read this year, because I read Shigeisha, and I read that other manga that Crash rates as the like Dead Word Puzzle.
Oh, Dead Word Puzzle.
Yeah,
I read that too.
It's so good and awful.
Those would definitely be the worst things that I read last year. But this is like just slightly above those. It is one of the least inspired stories that we have had. It is the same generic fantasy setup. Yes, it's post-apocalyptic. We don't get a lot of that, but like even with that setting, it's just like, oh, this fight is in ruins. This fight is in ruins. This fight is in ruins. Oh, we're in a forest this time. Like there's nothing exceptional being done with that. Like the only positive thing that I have to say is that the monster designs are interesting. But that should be a prerequisite. That should not just be like the one positive remark on that. Because again, like Shonen Jump is known for having memorable monsters and villains and stuff like that, and this just doesn't have it. The main character too. Why did we go with the most boring design for this guy with like his red bob cut and his tank top? Is like, this isn't interesting. Like Gon Freaks pulls it off because at least his hair and his personality are interesting, while this guy is just, I could watch paint dry and be more entertained than what this main character is doing. And like the one opportunity that I feel like this manga had to finally do something, to be more than just this one dimensional copy and paste of here's all these things that work for a fantasy series. The one thing that we had, the one time that we had a Drac arc with a complicated backstory, this guy that worked for Oma's dad and is now killing humans himself, we don't get to see a peek behind the curtains of the things that happen. He kind of tells us what happened, but like this was the perfect opportunity to do like a cutaway to show anything. And instead, we just kind of fast forward through this stuff and now we finally introduce the other human characters that can do things. And like, no, I do not care that they introduced a perky Gyaru girl who again is this very typical character to add in when you have like the gloomy guy who's like really powerful. Which again, that too is just like, there's a 5 heart guy that's coming because he knew something happened, and then he gets immediately offed by this other guy who is like suddenly powerful. I don't like that. I don't like where we just like briefly introduce somebody just to like set the power level of somebody else. Like I'm very passionate about this because it's just like you look back and this guy had a 2016 one shot with character designs that were way more interesting than this, and yet we get this 2025 series that just feels half-assed. The art and the background are not meshing. I'm just disappointed week to week. Like it's and again, this manga is trying to do something and it's failing so miserably. Like again, I gave Nice Prison second to last just because it's a gag series. I give it a little bit of grace because it's doing things and just
You're getting red.
I am getting red. I dislike the series. Like I dislike it so much. And like I'm known as the Build King hater. I did not like Our Blood Oath when that was a thing. This is worse than both of those. This is worse than Hakutaku.
I'm a Hakutaku defender. I'm an Hakutaku defender. No, I will disagree with that. It's not worse than Our Blood Oath. At least it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the story makes sense.
I recorded stuff for Our Blood Oath today, actually. Rereading that series, I feel like at least Gonron, the like chapter to chapter stuff isn't too complicated, so it's actually easy to follow. I have trouble like reading Our Blood Oath, even binge wise. Yeah, the Gonron, there's a lot of people who have disliked Gonron or brought up to me like, oh, this part isn't good. Like, the general consensus every week is not positive, but I just kind of like it, and I don't really have too much of a reason other than I think it's just kind of cool, and it has a dated quality to it, which I think probably is a negative. Like you want something new, you don't want something that evokes like early 2010s Jump. or like Iron Knight, if you remember that series or something. But that's just something that appeals to me.
I mean,
mean,
I don't mind if something has an older aesthetic, but at least make your characters look interesting. I don't want Mr. Bobcut and then the Mr. Serious guy who can't emote when half of his face is monsterized. Like, I hate
As
it.
much as I kind of find the Bobcat endearing, I think Wada no Ryujin, the previous one shot with the guy with the cool helmet looked way cooler. So I do feel a bit disappointed we didn't get that design, or at least
I,
something similar.
I don't know what it is with editorial, with doing stuff where it just kneecaps series like that. Because this isn't the first time that they've done that. Where,
Like
like, they've
Fabricant
had, like,
100 comes to mind with that.
uh, um,
With
oh
the
my
design
god,
for
Duran Duran. Or not Duran Duran.
Run 2, I think.
But that one had a more interesting main character design before they just made him into just generic, kind of looks like a delinquent guy.
Yeah. Guess it's just easy
Sad.
for serialization, but it is a shame. Like the designs just get
yeah, you do have to have that in mind.
yeah.
Right? Like drawing it every week a bunch of times.
Which even then, like week to week, there are some weeks where it just looks not finished.
There were a few chapters, yeah, where it looked like it was.
Like it's the main character. The main character is not looking finished, and it's a bob cut in a tank top.
I had something that I had to say at the beginning of the video, but I forgot, and it feels like the perfect time to say it, which is that this is all our opinion. If we hate a series that you like, it is fine.
You're wrong.
Every series has had positive votes from the voters list and negative votes as well. So no matter what is your opinion of any series, there's someone out there that disagrees with you, and that is fine.
The 9 people who voted positively or whatever for Gonron come sub to me.
Yeah. No,
I'll protect you.
23 people.
23?
I won't protect you.
Wow.
9 was nice prison. Let's.
There's 23 of us.
Yeah.
23 wrong people. Sorry, 24 counting Trent.
Oh, is it 24?
The
Whoa.
leader of the wrong. No, I'm as much as I hate it, obviously I'm having fun with it. I'm having fun being a hater. If Ganron Eggs has 1 million haters, I'm one of them. If Ganron Egg has 100 haters, I'm one of them. If Ganron Egg has no haters, assume that I am dead.
Let's move to. I have to always count. Number 10. Number 10 is Star of Beethoven, which is a weird one. We'll talk about that. Got 42 positive votes, 72 negative, which to me always means that people don't remember this series. Negative 30. Number 9 on the voters. Number 11 on Axel's. Number 6 on Trenton. And number 11 on mine as well. People don't... I feel like the only reason why I've seen so many people read this manga was because so many people started Star of Beethoven because they missed P6, and it's not the same, like at all. I don't think that the series has some interesting ideas. The main premise of the story is I feel interesting. Bringing Beethoven to the modern day, I think by itself is not necessarily like a new idea. There's that the movie, forgot which movie is the one where Hitler goes into the modern time as well.
Jojo Rabbit?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
Isn't that it?
Yeah, I think that's the one with the
Taika Waititi?
Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jump Plus also had another series last year where
Hendrix,
there was
right?
like a not Hendrix, no, it was like this philosopher that got like brought back to the modern day, and he started like playing rock music, I think, and I can't remember the name of it offhand. But again, it's not it goes to show that premise was not necessarily unique in 2025.
Yeah, it wasn't unique, but I don't know, I do like it. I always find it interesting. But the idea of him coming back and be pretty much like okay with the modern world and having the focus be on the evolution of the music. I really liked the one scene in the first chapter where he sees the modern piano and the main character's like, "Oh, pianos haven't changed ever," and he looks at the piano and is like, "No, they have." I think that was like a really cool moment, probably the coolest moment, the peak of the series in my opinion. But yeah, as the story goes on, there's just not a lot that is very memorable. There was the one of the girls that has the ugliest design, like the one with the giant boobs.
The one that's just way too thick for like no good reason.
Yeah, she has like probably the worst design I've seen in a long while. Which I don't know why. I think the rest of the manga looked all right. She's the one. I don't know. But yeah, I don't have too much to say about Star of Beethoven because it's again one of those where I think it was fine when I was reading it, and then nothing really stays. There was not really a lot of memorable moments past the first chapter. And then they had like a plot with
secret agents.
Yeah, that was weird. That was very weird.
It was, at least for me, this was a worse case of what happened to Itelsi, where it was two plots put into the same manga. Or Itelsi I feel would have worked better as a manga if it had stuck to one of the two moods that it presented the whole way through. Where obviously the first half of Itelsi was super serious, and then the second half of Itelsi was just like this silly investigation side of things, and like it should not have been put together in the same manga. I feel the same way in this one. It either should have stuck to the Music Academy, or it should have done the secret agent, delving into why Beethoven is like reincarnated plot. Trying to jam both of them together into the same manga only hurt it. Because, yeah, like Beethoven was kind of the only good draw, I feel like, as a character, because he was interesting. He was eccentric. He looked like Andy from Undead Unluck for whatever reason. He was fun. He was a fun character. And in contrast, you have Yaso, who, like, yes, there is an interesting story to be had here, but they have all this focus on the Music Academy in the first place, and then in the second half of the manga, it just is all over the place, where it's like, okay, what about the Academy plot? Like, we're just completely deviating from this. Which again, if you were looking for the second coming of PPP, no, you were not getting that. That was not here. And that was just sad to me. Like, I wanted to focus on the music side of things, and we were not getting that. I also just really just did not like Yaso as a character. I understand where things were kind of coming from, of being like the failed prodigy that had that one moment where things got unfortunate, and it was interesting tying his story to the cafe guy, to the one girl in the academy, but like it was just a lot of wasted potential. And I did not bother reading the final volume chapters. I don't know if or when those got translated in English or not, because this was another case of like the manga ended in the magazine, but you're getting a few more chapters in the volume release. So there was more to be wrapped up, but
they did not
I just don't.
I don't think
don't
those
care.
would have been officially translated yet, but there might be final ones. I haven't read them though.
I can't remember if Viz ever said if we were getting the digital versions of it. I wouldn't be surprised if we did, because there's not really a reason
We
not
tend
to.
to,
Yeah.
but they're kind of staggered a lot of the time, and because it's
Yeah,
like this year, I don't think we would have gotten them yet.
but that's all I have to say. If Trenton, if you have stuff to add, by all means.
So with Star of Beethoven, it is pretty messy. One thing I observed was when I was reading initially, I wasn't crazy about it, but a lot of other people were kind of high on the idea, like, oh, this is PPP again. This is P6 again. I shouldn't say PPP because that's a different manga.
That's a different manga.
Yeah. Uh, but as it progressed, I kind of got more and more interested, and the biggest reason I like Star of Beethoven is it feels like it didn't budge against anything. It feels very much like Hayashi wrote exactly what he wanted to, even though it got truncated in the end. And I think that comes across in things like the side characters' designs, which are very odd and specific, and I think they cater to their specific interests. But also that goes for the story overall, which is like this mess, but there are parts, especially just with the main narrative with Beethoven and Yasso, where it definitely spoke to me. I think it is a very kind of resonant thing as an artist about how Yasso is growing, and he's in this period where he doesn't feel like he can continue. He doesn't feel like piano is kind of working for him, and Beethoven's like reigniting that spark. There's some really nice moments with them. I think it's like chapter 7 or 8 or something. It could be a bit further on, where they're just on the bench talking, which is really, really nice. But they talk about making music and how that fits in with our lives. And Beethoven says something to the effect of kind of music is my love, it's my everything, but it also like destroys me. There's a lot of very fancy, flowery dialogue like that, which I really like. When I did my recap of my favorite chapters for the year of each issue, I found like I think 3 or 4 of them were Star of Beethoven chapters, which really surprised me. But looking back, I'm like, yeah, I did enjoy this. This did like resonate with me, and not just on a writing level, but also the artwork. For as messy and odd as it can be, when they try to evoke music, it gets very interesting with its imagery, and I feel like it does manage to convey some of the feelings of the music it's trying to evoke, or at least it does so in an interesting way that engaged my like mind. The agent stuff at the time, I thought like, oh, this is interesting if it goes anywhere. They're trying to explain what's going on. This could have been cool if Star of Beethoven did last long. It could have gone somewhere, but because it got axed, it just kind of peters out and it feels like wasted time. So I definitely understand why people weren't too fond of that, and if that like mars the final uh, kind of whole of Beethoven.
I kind of just, and this is me personally, I just kind of wish that it wasn't a part of the manga. I
Yeah,
would have enjoyed it
Yeah.
more if, like, for whatever whimsical reason, Beethoven was just back
it's just
in
there.
the
Yeah,
modern day. It doesn't even necessarily have to be explained. He is just there. Because again, if we had focused on just the academy, the music side of things, I feel like it would have been better. Like, you either have to commit or not, and I don't think they committed well enough for it to work.
too many ingredients kind of going on at once.
On number 9, we got Embers. It got 39 positive votes, negative 102, totally of negative 63. It was number 10 on the voters list. It was number 9 on Axel's. It was number 10 on mine, and it was number 5 on Trenton's. I do remember Trenton
There's a
being.
pattern here.
I do remember you being pretty positive of Embers, as it was like ongoing. I did read it after it ended, like a couple weeks after it ended. I like the main character. I like delinquent characters a lot, so I remember liking the main character. I think it was definitely a lot better than Naked and Bros. At least There was a couple of interesting characters. I did enjoy the ability of um, the main dude, which I don't remember the name.
Itani.
Eitani, exactly.
Yeah, hi Tani.
Eitani, and the like the way he was able to like protect the ball and everything. It was fun. It was different from other sport, football manga that I've read. It was a different ability. Um, I don't have like anything too negative about to say about it. I just don't, you know, it it's one of those where it kind of got axed, so it didn't do too much. That's kind of why it loses the points. It didn't do anything that was like that I loved. So, but yeah, overall I think it was a positive manga.
I definitely had a pretty strong connection to it. The like on a base level, I thought it was an okay sports manga. The art was nice. There's a lot of nice impact, cool designs. The delinquent angle, while I wish it was focused more on, at least it had something there. The big thing for me is when I look at it retrospectively, as just Haitani's kind of small, short journey, I think it works quite well. And there were quite a few moments that just really impacted me. A big one is in chapter 10 when he's playing this match and Haitani's like doesn't know what to do. He's studied for this. He's like tried his best to train up for this match, and he's overwhelmed. And then the coach Bugai comes up to him and just tells him to calm down. That is one of my favorite just moments of the year. I thought that was done really well, and it builds on Haitani as a character, as this person who is a delinquent kind of isn't always afforded the kind of right image by people, and he's trying his best to reform that image, and he's worried like people are going to always think he's a delinquent or kind of useless or not able to perform properly. And his kind of captain and team believing in him was a really nice moment, and that also extends to kind of the original teacher who believed in him and gave him the initial opportunity. It's just really nice. I feel like his character had a pretty nice short journey that, even though it was truncated by the end, it came out well. One of the final panels in the last chapter as well, where the teacher comes back and asks Haitani, "Have you had fun?" And you just get him saying, "Yeah," with this really earnest smile. I really, really liked, and that's what stands out to me when I think of Embers. Even though it's cut short, it just kind of feels complete almost to me. Very solid short sports series in my mind. One of the best football ones anyway, because there's a lot of dud jump football series that have not stuck with me at all.
Ole Golazo.
Yeah.
Dear God. I agree that it was fine as like the short series that it was. Um, there were problems with the other characters. I think the other characters were the biggest downfall of this series. They were trying to sell us delinquent soccer haiku. I think from the get-go, considering it's like, oh, he has to team up with the guy that defeated him in like the one official match that he played. Like, we keep getting introduced to these side characters that could be built upon just for them to be like tossed to the wayside. It's just like, oh, is he gonna do more with like his delinquent friends that are starting to play soccer with him? No, just focusing on him. Okay, throw them away. Oh, there's an interesting guy that has like a snake theme that is being antagonistic to the character, and they play against each other. Are we going to include him? Nope, he's been dropped to the second string. We're not going to build on this guy. But no, let's throw in a random teammate that is really, really obsessed with physical anatomy. I'm sure the kids reading this series are gonna love that guy. It's just really disappointing. Like, building a good team is such an important aspect of a sports manga, and I feel like this series continued to fail at that at almost every juncture. The other main character, Takami, he's fine. Like, I think it's interesting focusing on like what his struggles are as a striker, to make him different compared to like other strikers. He's very different compared to like Kageyama from Haikyuu, where yes, there is talent there, but he has reached his own limitations. I think that's good. Um, the biggest strength I do believe was that Haitani was a defensive player. Like you don't get that in other soccer series. You don't. Like the vast majority of them are like, oh, this guy is a striker. This guy is a striker. This guy's a striker. This one's a goalie. This one's a striker. This one's a striker. So it was nice having that difference for once of having a defensive focused character. There's only one other soccer manga that I've recently read, which I did rate a 10 out of 10, that did have a defensive focus at a certain point. And I thought this series could do something similar, and it didn't. I don't know, the art was great though. I will say, like the it had a lot more flashes of cool art. So I think that there again is potential for this mangaka to come back in the future. Maybe the answer, similar to Oleg Golazo, is pairing up with a different writer, and then you can be successful like Akane Banashi. Maybe. I'm just throwing it out there. Which I'll say in general, I think that we should experiment more with these pairs. Just because I think other things can be done, but that's just me. I don't know what the editorial situation is with new talent. It's definitely a tale of two cities when you look at like what we got in Shonen Jump last year compared to what we got in Jump Plus last year.
I'm always a bit out of Jump Plus, so I don't know.
I read a lot.
I know, but me following one magazine's already enough.
I read Chuck Beans.
I
That was fun.
I also read Chuck Beans. I read Sachi, which was like the greatest comedy
Sachi was
manga I've read in my life.
Yes, I did watch your video.
Number 8 is The Mage Next Door, or the Mage Next Door English. This one actually got 111 positive votes, negative 24, 87 positive votes. It was number 5, but then it was number 8 on Axel, it was number 8 on my list, and it was number 12 on Trenton. Why?
You can explain first if you'd like.
I like sorry, I like that I saw your list, I put it on on the table, and now I got jump scared by your vote that I had put it down. Go ahead, explain it.
So I don't like hate Osagawa by any means. I pretty much kind of enjoyed most series this year. Not that I think a lot of them are like particularly amazing, but Osagawa just doesn't do much for me. My favorite parts of it are weirdly like how it depicts Japan, some of the rural areas in the first few chapters, and just some of the architecture and places like Osagawa and Yobuko go to, like the maid cafe, probably my favorite chapter. But then I just kind of have a few issues with it generally. The comedy just isn't my speed a lot of the time, and then the battle elements feel very, very typical and boring. The Elite Magic Task Force don't inspire anything in me. The character designs for those characters are really, really typical. And Osagawa, the whole gimmick of him having all of these kind of mundane spells that are meant to be used for day-to-day relaxation and helping, he a lot of the time will use them now and again to do one thing, but his clincher will always be the water gun, which is just magic water blast. That isn't very exciting to me at all. I think the premise is really being squandered. But I don't hate the series at all either. I just kind of think it's there.
That's fair. I do agree with the fact that the water gun kind of it's the one that uses the most, and it's easily the most boring one. I do like, the middle of the battles when he do uses like some spells like uh
The pillow, I think, was one.
I don't remember the pillow. There are so
I
many.
think that was a pillow.
I'm not saying that it wasn't the pillow. I just saying I don't remember. I remember like the clock that uses like a spell to make it super loud. I remember him using a spell on himself. These are like the last couple chapters, so that's why I remember him a little bit better. But like using a spell to, I think like reach places on time, so he goes super fast. And I do like how he uses like those spells to have, even if a lot of times like normal abilities. I do find the the water gun very very boring, and it sucks that it is used a lot. Um, the reason why I like this one, and also the reason why it's not higher, it's that it kind of is Sakamoto Days with magic, in a lot of ways. The art style is very similar, in my opinion. It also uses a little bit of like that battle shonen with comedy that Sakamoto did use more at the beginning of the series, which then dropped. This one seems to, at least so far, like have a little bit more of a focus on the comedy, which I do enjoy. I've enjoyed the comedy of it a lot more than I've enjoyed like Nice Prison. I think it's fun. It's not like laughing out loud funny, but I do like it. I do like Ozoegawa. I just find him funny. I do like the side character as well, the girl. It's a fun manga, I think. It's nothing like too special, but it does to me capture a little bit of early Sakamoto with a different twist, and that is enough to keep me entertained for the duration of the chapter every week.
At least for me, the reason why this one was as low as it was is just because it is on the newer side, so I haven't had as much to work with. Um, which is another series that I ranked higher. That I recognize that argument doesn't necessarily stand for everything, but that was how I felt with this one. I get the Sakamoto vibes. It's like a mix of that and Mashal.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas compared to Mashal, where we had the muscle magic, like we're doing extreme things with very mundane magic compared to everybody else that has like flashier spells and whatnot. So I appreciate that. I also completely understand the criticism with the water gun. Um, I do think that we need to move past that at a certain point. But I appreciate like everything else that is being done. I'm very disappointed in both of you for not bringing up Mini Magus because Mini Magus is the best thing about this manga. So that is disappointing. Um, the female lead, Kazura, the one problem that I have with her is that like all of her character growth was put into a single chapter. Where it's just like, oh, I have problems with summoning, and Osoegawa does like one thing, and like all of a sudden now she's perfectly fine at summoning anything. Like I feel like that was a wasted opportunity to not, allow her to continue with her growth and whatnot. But that is what it is. I'm also not a fan of the tsundere guy from the police force either. Just because again, it's so typical. We had that in this. We had it in Ganran Egg. It's just bad. Um, interesting bit of information though. So this mangaka, he had a one shot in the Jump Future project earlier this year. He was the one responsible for the Moonlight Villa one shot, which was one with like the different like yokai-ish people in the apartment complex. Um, I genuinely wonder how that would have been as a series in comparison to this one. I don't think this one is bad by any means, but that would have been an interesting thing. That being said, Trenton, I do have to send you to June 31st for putting this in 12th because what the hell?
I that chapter, I'm still kind of like, what is going on there? It feels like it's trying to do a really cool moment, but it didn't land with me. And I'm seeing a 50 reaction of like, oh, this is really crazy. And what just happened, huh?
Yeah, for whatever reason, that post really popped off for Melon
Yeah.
on Twitter. Like he had like 30,000 plus likes on that
Dang.
post for June
Insane.
31st, and he's like, "Do I have to be the rep for the mage next door? I don't want to be." But like, I don't know. I think it's so interesting that like again, you have all these characters that like they have these different spells for different things, and like the naming convention makes sense for what the magic does. The fact that supposedly the strongest mage that we have, the one that sent Osoegawa on this mission in the first place, the fact that her magic, she literally says a date that does not exist, and it has just this tremendous toll on that guy. I find that fascinating. Like it's so different that I really, if this series gets to continue, I hope that Osoegawa gets to do something interesting with that as well. Like finally breaking away from like his mundane spells. Not to have something that just is absurdly powerful because that's specifically how he designed it, but like something that leans into the absurd that still has a similar kind of effect. Whether or not we get that is another, story, but I think it has potential to grow. But generally speaking, if anything is going to survive in this batch, I think it's only going to be one series, and it's between this and the other one that hasn't been talked about yet. Gone Wrong is Gone Wrong, so that's I'm just saying, if that's
Yeah.
not gone, I am going to go to Japan personally and speak my mind. I'm gonna pull a Sakamoto day. I'm not. But I don't know. I enjoy it for what it is. It's just not my favorite of the bad.
Number 7. It's Order of the Flame. 108 positive votes, 73 negative. It got a total of 35 positive. Number 8 on the voters. It is number 7 on my list. It is number 4 on Axel's, and it is number 11 on Trenton's. I'll say so. Otter, for those that don't know, is the new manga by the mangaka behind Redwood, which is one of the few X Shonen Jump titles that did get a physical edition in English. I didn't like Redwood. Like the first chapter of Redwood was really interesting, and then I hated everything else. Part of it was because of the pacing. I've seen a lot of people saying Order of the Flame's pacing is slow. I do not think it is. I think it's slower than Redwood, but it should be slower than Redwood because I think Redwood's pace. No, actually, Redwood's pace. No, I was confused. Redwood's
No,
pace is like
other way
super
around.
slow.
Red
Yeah,
Hood is way slower compared to Order.
yeah. No, you're right. Sorry, I got confused. That's the thing. It's like Redwood's like took like 3 chapters to be done with the first chapter, basically. And it got to the end of the series for us to get to the point where it should have gotten in like chapter 2 or 3. And the pacing of this one is so much better than Redwood, and it helps me enjoy the manga a lot more. I also think, like I said a little bit earlier, that the second part of Otter is, in my opinion, much better than the first part. I think we're getting to a point where we're getting a couple more of interesting side characters, a couple of more interesting villains. The guy we just defeated very recently, the Cor something. I'm thinking Corleo, but that's not. That's the name of the guy from Mama Yu Yu. But one of the villains that was defeated earlier, I think was pretty interesting. Bit of a spoilers, but the new developments with the king, um, and the ice spirit, I also thought was pretty interesting. Um, I think it means that the manga is getting canceled.
Yes,
But
it's
it is,
time.
yeah, but it is interesting. The way that he's moving, it is interesting. So I'm enjoying this a lot more than I've enjoyed Goron so far. Um, I think it is the best battle shonen, pure battle shonen of the year. That's not saying a lot. I don't think we've had a massive hit. Like I think all of them are gonna be gone. But I do enjoy. I also enjoyed the art style. I like the way whenever Otter defeats someone, the paneling, like that old style of like the borders and everything. It's really cool. It's interesting and it's fun. And I do give it points for being, in my opinion, constantly improving. Especially if we consider Redwood into the equation. Like it's so much better.
So, I agree with you. I think that it is a step up from Red Hood, considerably so. Um, it had a shaky start that got better with time. Like I genuinely think that it's the better Icehead Gill, which is not saying much because Icehead Gill was Icehead Gill, but um, I think the big problem with Odor of the Flame is that we had an interesting world to dive into, and they just didn't. Kawaguchi didn't do enough with it. There wasn't enough exploring of the world, of the culture, of the history of these various things, and we were just kind of going from place to place to place to place with characters to characters to characters, and I think that's a general struggle for a lot of like newer fantasy series where like if you're going to make a fantasy series, you have to have good characters, you have to have a good plot, and you have to have a good setting, and you have to be able to explore that setting. And I don't think that I think that Kawaguchi had those elements, but he wasn't doing enough with them. But it was improving, like story wise, that was improving. Characters, we were getting better characters as time went on. It was just kind of too little, too late at that point. Um, I think Oda himself is kind of a bland character. I genuinely think that Kawaguchi's main weakness as a writer is his main character, because we had a very similar character in Red Hood, where it's just this kind of meek-ish character who can do things in the moment, but like otherwise is just kind of there. Um, and that's kind of a thing in some of like the other one shots too. I feel when the art pops, it pops. Like I think that Oder has some really good artistic moments, but there are still moments like with like the action scenes where it kind of gets muddled. So that kind of is a problem still. It's not as bad as the werewolves and Red Hood, because that was just a furry blob on the pages a lot of the time, which was unfortunate. Um, but all in all, I think it did well. Like obviously, like for whatever reason, editorial did keep it along, despite the fact that it was always trending down. First volume sales were not good. Second volume sales were not good. So they're more or less like, all right, it's done, as is evident by the latest chapters. But I still think it was better than a lot of the stuff that came out last year. But Trenton can speak on it now, and he better choose his words well for putting this as low as he did and
Yeah.
Gone Ramen third.
I think the funny thing is I don't have that much to say about Oda.
I mean, if you are,
Why the hell is it in 12?
That's kind of why. Okay, so Odor of the Flame, it's pretty low at 11. Yeah. Um, I pretty much agree with everyone that it's an improvement on Red Hood, and as it's been going on, it's seen a lot of improvement too. The also the thing you mentioned before about Kawaguchi not really exploring its world, I think might be my main issue, or just the main thing I want to see from it is more adventure. You have an expansive Norse world. You have the idea of the sagas, which I'm actually surprised hasn't been delved into, based on how much Kawaguchi wanted to be meta with Red Hood. You could be pretty meta with the whole saga idea. It's essentially the same thing again. It's stories, fables being tackled through a different cultural lens. The best I think Ocha has been for me was the short arc with Kutain, and Dodoa. It felt more adventurous when they were on the boat and fighting an enemy with a unique ability. But since then, it's also been just pretty solid. I like the artwork. It's trying to say something about kind of violence and fighting back, even if it's not super complicated or anything. It's kind of solid compared to Gonron. It's just not my flavor. Probably is the biggest thing separating them. I just like elements of Gonron a bit more. There is nothing about Odor I particularly hate. I like parts, but I don't love anything really.
On number 6, we got PPP, Ping Pong Peril. It got 124 positive votes, 41 negative, a total of 83 positive. Was number 6 on the voters list. It was number 6 on Axel's list, and it was number 10 on Trenton, but it was number 3 on mine. This is my hot take. And I think anyone that knows me probably saw it coming, at least like top 4. I love that K manga, and even stuff like Kaiji. I love Kaiji, for example. And this obviously is not as good as as Kaiji, but it does tackle a lot of like the same things. And I love like how stupid and insane and over the top it is a lot of the times. I love that it knows what it is. Like the final match is in space against an alien. And it's like that makes sense. Why not? I love that, and it made this one of the most enjoyable manga, just because of that. The matches were fun. They were unique. Like each of them had their own set of rules, their own unique place. So I was enjoying like pretty much all of it. And that's it. I don't even have like the characters were fun, but I don't even have like a lot to say about the characters. It's mostly just how over the top and how fun most of the games were that really made it number 3. It's not complicated.
I think in a similar vein, I'm like not the opposite, but it isn't very complicated. The games are really fun, unique, zany. They were the highlight for sure, but without the characters to really grip onto, I can't put it higher above other things. I just didn't really care about Tyra that much. I felt like his whole deal with his sister was like shown at the very beginning, but not explored much, which I think is a bit of a shame. Like some of the bonus doodles in like volume 1 or like between chapters the author would post were neat, like with him and his sister hanging out. Maybe if we got some more of that, I would have cared a bit more. But other than that, I was just kind of along for the ride with it gradually getting better, minus the fight against the otaku guy. I didn't enjoy that. The Shibuya scramble kind of ping pong and then ending in space was pretty fun and zany. I had a good time.
Oh, honestly speaking, I think this was the most creative series that we had from 2025. Just because again, like each match was as interesting as it was. I enjoyed like the twists on ping pong that we had with each subsequent match. I do agree with the Tyra criticism though. Like pun not intended, but like the spark that we had in the first chapter with like his almost like horror stand from like JoJo's with that ping pong match. I wish we had seen kind of more of that from him in later chapters, but we really didn't get that. So that was kind of disappointing. Um, and I did think that the space battle was the perfect way to end things, of just being absurd as it was. Had we gotten, a longer run, I'm thinking maybe that would have been gradually introduced more. Who knows? But genuinely, the one big problem that I had with this manga was the continued focus on exploiting the younger sister, and like just the objectification of her. I thought that was absolutely awful. And the fact that like he had the match against his teacher. I'm not upset necessarily that he had the match with his teacher, but the fact that his teacher was so obsessed with his younger sister, and he is a high schooler himself, it just grossed me out. Just absolutely grossed me out. And I get it. Things are, what is considered okay to put in the story is different, like from place to place, but like it rubbed me the wrong way. And that really was like the downfall there. We immediately bounced back with the scramble, although that was also the sign of the end by saying like, oh, you're facing off against your former coach, and if you win, he's going to literally pay off your debt.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. It's curtains, but overall, I really, really enjoyed it. Um, and I'm just disappointed that we didn't get more, but it is what it is.
I do think this will probably put this author kind of on a lot of people's radar, especially I guess Jump fans, because it ranked pretty high for everyone. I see a lot of people still talk about this one and just how weird it is. So yeah, it'll be cool to see what they do next.
He does have a consistent online presence, so that definitely helps. I,
Oh,
I
that's good.
think the people that like actively post things on like their Twitter or whatnot, like that's genuinely a good sign. I haven't checked the last time like what his follower count was, but yeah,
It's fine.
just the light being lost from your eyes.
Okay. Uh, Number 5 is Hero Girl and Demon Lord Call It Quits. It got 116 positive votes, 44 negative. It has a total of 72. Number 7 on the voters list, but it is number 3 on Axel's. It is number 5 on my list, and it is number 9 on Trenton's. I was reading the last couple of chapters, and I really, really like this one. Obviously, I'm a big fan of like more slice of life manga, so this one kind of fits in. The first chapter was kind of afraid that was going to be a little bit more of a mix of a battle shonen, because they do have a fight at the end, which I thought was going to be a recurring thing, but it is not. I don't think it has really happened again, outside of like a kind of a gag fight with the girl, with the hero girl, in one of the recent chapters. And I just really enjoy the dynamic between the two main characters, the subspace that is introduced a little bit later on as well. So that's so really fun. It reminds me a little bit of the vibe of it. Reminds me a little bit of Ruby Dragon, in that it's kind of like a comedy manga, but it's not too loud. Like not only like Nice Prison, but like most of the gag manga that we do have in the majority of Shonen Jump. The gag manga in Shonen Jump tend to be pretty loud, pretty out there. This one, I feel like it's a lot more relaxed, and that helps. Like, I think the fun of it, and I just really like the Demon Lord. The way he's like so deadpan. The chapter where he goes into the body of the girl and has to go to high school, it's so fun, and yeah, I love them. I hope we continue this series at least for a little while more. because I do like it.
So I had mentioned before, like Mage Next Door, oh, it's too new, and that's why I've got it low. And then this was the exception to the rule, where like I have it third. I agree. I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot, which is just kind of funny to me. I wasn't gonna compare it to Ruri Dragon though. I compare it to Witch Watch.
Hmm.
That's kind of the one that it feels more so to me, because we get a combination of mostly comedy centric chapters, but there is that possibility of like action stuff. Because I feel like what obviously like we haven't had something like chapter one again, but I feel like the potential is there to have it. So if the series is able to kind of like create a good balance of that, I think that's good. Even if it doesn't go to the battle stuff again, I enjoy as well the slice of life aspect of it and the comedy with it. Um, the Demon Lord is funny. He is the best of the main characters, but in terms of the side characters, one, I absolutely love the grandpa. He is hilarious. And just the difference between him and the dad and the daughter, I think that's all great. But the new friend Azuki, she is also hilarious.
Yeah.
Like the deadpan jokes and whatnot, like all of a sudden like there's a chapter where like she starts just floating into the air. It's just like, oh wow, my diet is working too well. And it's just like I laughed. Like it was just genuinely funny. And like I I'm one of those people where like I'm definitely more apologetic towards gag series. Like I enjoy them. I continue to enjoy gag series and whatnot. And while this isn't, obviously it's still more slice of life. It's not a me and Roboco. It's not a nice prison. Thank God. Um, but it's fun. Um, it is also interesting to note that similar to the Mage Next Door, um, Hero Girl and Demon Lord had a one shot toward the beginning of the year. Although it was specifically Hero Girl and Demon Lord compared to Mage Next Door having the Moonlight Villa earlier in the year. So there was enough of a positive reception, and I remember that. I remember like how much positive reception there was around the one shot that they were like, "Oh, gotta print it." And it's fascinating to me that they decided to throw it in as part of the last batch of the year. So I'm very curious to see how that translates, or if it translates, um, coming up with like the TOC as well as sales. Like, will it last? Will any of the three last? At least for me, this is my this is my horse in the race for what could last. But you never know. Japan reception is it's very different compared to Western reception.
I definitely, out of the three, I think it's probably the one most likely to stick. A funny thing I want to build on it getting a one shot and appearing this year. Been looking into Our Blood Oath again. That also had a one shot and it got serialized within a year, presumably because there was enough positive reception. So sometimes it doesn't always like work out, but I think in this case there is more appeal to Hero Girl and Demon Lord. It also has elements which I feel are very different. It feels kind of like a Sunday manga to me. Just its pace being more relaxed. It's got this not less abrasive comedy to it as well, and then it's playing around with some tropes which we don't see too much in Jump, the Hero Girl Demon Lord stuff, or heroes and demons. For me, I think I'm still feeling it out, like how much I enjoy it. There are definitely jokes that make me laugh. The grandpa and dad, the whole thing where they all leveled up in sequence was pretty funny. It does have some pretty clever comedy, and the side cast as well, like the extended family. And I also wrote down Azuki in my notes. I think that was probably the funniest part so far. It does feel to me like it's exploring a lot of different avenues. I'm a little surprised it hasn't gone into the school stuff more, but I kind of like that it hasn't. We're kind of in this apartment exploring the actual relationship between these two characters, and if it keeps building on that, I think I'll get more and more invested.
I just wanted to say I do find it funny that like there is an actual like dinging like sound that goes
Yeah,
off
Yeah.
anytime that she levels up. Like that is
some
hilarious.
nice short comedy
Yeah.
there. Um, yeah, it's in a weird place in my list. It probably could be higher with me. It really depends because this is the one with the least chapters currently, like eight
True.
chapters. So yeah,
Number 4, we got probably the biggest sports manga of the year. In Arukaze Mount, it got 121 positive votes, 24 negative, so a total of 97 overall positive points. It is number 4 as well on the voters list. It is number 5 on Axel's. It is number 7 on Trenton's, and it is number 6 on mine. I do believe that it is the best sports manga out of the 3 that we had this year. Well, I mean, Ping Pong Peril is also sports, so. But excluding the insanity that is Ping Pong Peril, out of the 3 more normal, grounded sports manga that we have this year, I think it is the best one. It is. I think it is one case where everything that he's doing is solid. I think he's able to do. Is able to have an interesting characteristic to the main character with the southpaw. I love the Diltragnus, the way like he's like super smart. He's able to use like strategize and everything. I do like him a lot. I don't think it has done a lot with the brothers yet, other than the first chapter, but maybe there's time. we'll see. And I think he's able to do something that Dragon Ball Parade, Nine Dragons Ball Parade, wasn't able to do, which is to kind of try to build a team kind of like one by one while still having matches, while still showing the sport. That said, it to me feels like it's doing sports manga 101, where it is doing everything you want to from a sports manga, and it is doing it well, but not much more. You know, I don't think there's anything in Arukaze Mount so far that like that will make me like love this manga the same way that you love a Slam Dunk or a IQ or Eye Shield. You know,
rookies.
rookies, yeah. I think it's still missing that it factor to push it to another level, but so far, it's a pretty good sports manga.
Pretty much echo everything I would say about it. It's solid. The artwork's really good. Phantom Sia duo. I'm blanking on the name, but the just way they illustrate things with so much impact or imagery as well is a lot of fun. Uh, the characters, I feel like you mentioned with Nine Dragons Ball Parade, it having a team already assembled, which we're gradually getting to know, is making the pace much nicer. And I do like the characters like Ibuki, the kind of captain playmaker, is really cool. The focus on Kengo as well was really nice. I started out enjoying it like quite a lot. I think the current match is dragging for me and is illuminating maybe an aspect which I feel is contentious or I'm not meshing with as much, which is it being a bit too exaggerated. The Moko character, who's like this hulking guy with the smiley face, feels a little too much for me. Um, and it's getting a bit too silly when I might want it to be a bit more focused just on these boys playing baseball. But that could really go either way. It's definitely the most solid sports series of the year, or just in general for a while. I say that, but Green Greens exist, so
Yeah.
yeah.
The new guy appearing reminded me a lot, and it's not a good comparison, with the guy from
Oh,
Do Retry, the guy
yes,
with the giant
yeah.
arm. It was.
No. It's Shibatarian. The guy is clearly from Shibatarian.
I've only read like half of Shibatarian so far, but yeah, he does have the
That's why you
face.
don't know.
He does have the face. He does have the face. No, I mean more in like it is a more grounded manga, and then out of nowhere he appears, and you're like, where did you came from?
Yeah,
Because you're
there's like
not from this.
hints of weirdness, like with the captain of that team who's like, "I'm gonna kill you all with my pitching," but that's like kind of acceptable, weirdly. But then this guy's, yeah, that guy's a little too much.
I think I'm on a similar wavelength to Trenton on this, where like I thought that this one had a great start, but the wheels started to fall off as time went on. And baseball manga are my bread and butter. I read a lot of sports manga. I read a lot of baseball manga. That's why this was not the best, even baseball manga of last year. Strikeout Pitch was from Jump Plus. And that's why it actually Strikeout Pitch won as many awards as it did and nominations, and like its sales have been tracking upward as well. And this is going to be weird to say, truth be told, I actually enjoyed the one shot of Harukaze Mound more than the series itself, or at least the setup of that. And I can say that as somebody that literally read the one shot for Harukaze Mound within the first few weeks of last year for the manga challenge. Like, so the parallels of me reading things and then them either getting serialized or turning into anime last year was weird. Magic power on my part, I don't know, but like I liked our band of misfits because that's what this team was, but I don't think like we went far enough with any of those characters. Like I feel like it's like we got like a one-dimensional aspect of them and then never went farther with that. Not to mention we just completely abandoned the other brother, Alkaze. Like I thought that was really disappointing. Like there's such a big focus on these twins, and it's just like, oh, ship them off to another team, and like we're not even gonna bother with that. The art was the saving grace. I do agree that like the art when they were in their bag, they were in their bag. But we didn't get enough of them playing the actual game. And that's another problem compared to like other series where like yes, a lot of baseball manga are pitcher focused, but they still show the other players getting to play the game. And there was just too much focus on the pitching and whatnot that like the very few amount of games that we did have were just speed ran. Like even with like the current one right now, the game is already over pretty much. Like we are in the very end of this match. It just feels like we're not getting enough substance to it anymore. So like honestly, as I was kind of looking over my list, I would actually put Harukaze Mound below Ping Pong Peril at this point. Because I think Ping Pong Peril did more with the game than Harukaze Mound did. Which is crazy to say. But despite my negativity, I still enjoyed Harukaze Mound for what it was. But maybe this was not the answer for the Phantom Seer duo, considering how many other one-shots and other things that they did. Shonen Jump can't get a sports series to land, and they tried. They tried on this one. They pushed hard. They gave this so many color pages, and it did not succeed.
Moving on to the top 4, it is Kaedegami. Top 3, I mean.
Isn't it top 3? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Sorry. Top 3. It is Kaedegami, number 3. 148 positive votes, 33 negative. total of 115. It is number 3 on the voters list, which I was a little bit surprised. It is number 7 on Axel's. It is number 4 on mine, and it is number 1 on Trenton's list. So I'll let you start.
I've read the first chapter, and it's one of the best first chapters I've seen in a while. It really hit me. I think the relationship of Ko and Chio is really, really sweet. And that kind of expands into the core concept of the series, which is Dororo with more emotion put into it. If you're not familiar with Osamu Tezuka's Dororo, they kind of gradually get these different body parts for the main character isn't called Dororo.
Yakimaru.
Yeah. And he gradually gets his body parts back. In this case, the same concept is done where Ko is going to help Chio get all of her body parts back, but the focus on it is here is very emotional. The things they say they want to do with those body parts are stuff like, I want to hold your hand or eat food with you. And there's some just really sweet sentiments like that, which in a few videos I liken to them being more of a mother-son duo than anything romantic, which I still kind of assert, even though there are like hints of flirtation and stuff there. The artwork is amazing. I think there's so many really lovely expressions, especially in that first chapter. It can dip in fights where it gets a bit muddy, but I think it consistently looked really nice. The just setting as well, I felt was fairly unique. You don't always get more Chinese focused setting in Jump anyway, and the way they were integrating different gods I thought was cool with Chio, and then Nuba I think was the main antagonist. Yeah, just consistently I was engaged. I found it funny. I just cared about the characters from chapter 1, which meant every single chapter subsequently I really enjoyed. And I think the final arc, I wish it just went on longer because 17 chapters is far too short, but it managed to wrap up a nice kind of final arc with Huazi and, oh no, Nuba might be the other antagonist. I'm getting confused. But yeah, you had this final arc at the end that kind of mirrored Ko and Chio's relationship and hinted at what it might explore through their kind of bizarre human and monster combining kind of dark power-up stuff. There was just a lot more emotion to everything I felt. Yeah, just completely captivated by this one throughout the whole thing. Definitely my favorite Jump manga of the year.
I do agree with a lot of the things that you said. I think for me, the thing that puts it a little bit down is this kind of a battle shonen where you kind of almost forget that it is a battle shonen, because I feel like the battles are the worst part of the manga. And obviously, 17 chapters not enough to tell the story that it wants to tell, but I do really like the main duo, their relationship. And I agree with you in the sense that, yeah, I felt very much that it was like a mother-son kind of a connection there, where she, he lost his parents and she appeared. So to me, that automatically makes it more of a parental relationship that was really well developed. Then, yeah, it was fun seeing them capturing all these body parts to, help her do things with him, like having these life experiences with him. It reminded me a little bit of Fabric and 100's relationship between the main duo, though I do believe in here, I'm not saying it was better done, but I enjoyed it a little bit more. The only thing that I would change if I was me is that I would not have given her the face right away. I do understand why they do it, for her to have like the expressions and everything. I felt like it would have been a lot more impactful if the face was the last element to be captured, and he was able to see her face at the very end of the manga. but that's just kind of like a minor thing. I really did enjoy the manga as a story of these two characters rather than a battle shonen.
I think I disagree with the face aspect of it, only because being able to express emotions for faceless characters is not easy for everyone. Like, and I don't know that the average manga artist is necessarily going to be able to succeed in doing that. Like, anytime I think of that, I think of like Super Sentai or Kamen Rider, where like absolutely they're able to emote, um, despite not having a face or wearing a helmet and whatnot. But it's not so easy for everyone. So I personally didn't mind that she had her face right away. Um, that being said, if I had to change something, it probably would have been the inclusion of the organization halfway through. Like, I mean, I'm just gonna say it. Not every battle series needs to have an organization established toward the beginning of the manga, especially since like we had already kind of gotten like our informant kind of character like a few chapters in during like the donkey little arc. So I didn't think we needed it. Granted, me saying that does not change how well the 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 theater kind of arc was done. I thought that was done really great. And the way it ended, like, it showed like, okay, the monster showed more humanity than the humans. Like, I thought that was a good element of it. But um I don't know, like this series definitely felt like the potential man meme, in that like, yes, like out of like anything from last year, I feel like it had the most potential, but absolutely got kneecapped by Shonen Jump editorial, because they were like, we have to have a sports success, and Harukaze Mound has to be that success. I think that they threw Kaidegami to the wayside in that regard, and it's a shame, because like there were good things there. I like the Chinese aesthetic as well. Jump Plus tried that the year before and it didn't land, unfortunately. So maybe that's just a sign that, no, I shouldn't even say that, because Japan likes Goku Rakugai, and that has a Chinese aesthetic. So it's just, I don't know, it just didn't work for Kaidegami, I guess, despite I think being implemented well. The the fighting itself, I also agree, was not great. Like, a lot of the fights were just kind of like a few panels, pages, and then done. Um, so like the fight choreography wasn't as good as it could have been, but like I still enjoyed it overall. It's just a shame that like editorial decided, not, we're not going with this one.
Moving on to your number two, this is actually the one, as you probably figured it out.
I've been waiting. I was just like, we have not matched on anything. Where is
Huh.
the one? And obviously, it wasn't going to be first place at this point because of Trenton.
So yes, Jujutsu Kaisen Modulu. I'm surprised about the voters list. I'm gonna be honest, because it's 198 positive votes, 24 negative, overall 174. Number two, and yes, it was number two on Axel's, it was number two on Trenton's, and it was number two on my list.
Which is a shock coming from the JJK hater of the group here.
I know. I was. I made. I had like a tweet that went kind of viral as well, because it's like saying like JJK model is a good manga. Like, I think what I really don't like, what it cuts me off from Jujutsu Kaisen, and I've been learning that through Modulu, is the the fights. I really don't like how Gege writes fights, and we're currently in the middle of one, and I'm currently in a part in Modulu where I don't like too much.
We're in the middle of two fights happening at the same time.
Sure, is yeah, but yeah, the fights. There was one other fight, in the early parts of the series that I was also the part where I kind of tuned off a little bit more. I absolutely love the story, the thematic about the the siblings, the two humans, the two aliens, the I forgot his name, the huge dude that is like now fighting them, and his sister. So there's a lot of like elements there. I do really like how it's tackling topics that are pretty controversial right now with immigration, genocide. We can compare it to a lot of things that are happening right now in real world that are very controversial, and Gege is tackling them in a way that I find it really interesting and really really good. So that's kind of why Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, in my opinion, I'm having a lot more fun with it than I ever was with the original Jujutsu Kaisen. It also helps that you don't need to remember too much of the main series, because if you had, this would probably be like number 12, but you don't, so that's good.
So I have this one at number 2, but like I have this one at number 2 with an asterisk, just because it's it's new, but it's not new. It's a sequel series, so it's not a new series on its own. To your point, yes, like you don't have to necessarily be as connected with the first one, because we're talking, you know, 2 generations after like the characters from the main series, but it does things really well. Like I think the fact that like we're going into this knowing that it's a short series, like Gege has a story that he specifically wants to tell. Like he knows what he wants, and we're getting it executed really well. Um, and I think that having a different artist as well was a really great decision. That, you know, you're gonna have people that are saying like, oh well, it's not JJK art at that point, and like JJK art has been this whole thing through its own journey.
But it feels, in
Like
my opinion, it feels a lot like Jujutsu Kaisen.
it does. Like there's it's just with polish compared to Jujutsu Kaisen, where it got rough around the edges a lot. Um, or it was rougher along the edges to start out with, and then it kind of got simpler as time went on. Jujutsu Kaisen's like art evolution is interesting. Like every series that lasts hundreds of chapters has an art evolution from chapter 1 to the final chapter, but there's polish with this one, which I appreciate. I do like that. Um, I, one of the notes that I had here is that it's the Boruto of Jujutsu Kaisen, but way more compact. Because again, it's following years later with different characters, but some previous characters are still impacting the plot to a degree. Um, I also like that there are the parallels. The current plot is very relevant to current world events and whatnot. So I think it's very relatable, and like that it's having its own impact with that. So I think that was a really great decision. Whether or not that was what inspired Modulo in the first place, I don't know. That's that'll be left for like a Gege interview in the future, I'm sure. But I think the strongest point though is the relationship between our main trio of Yuka, Tsurugi, and Marulu. Um, Marulu, however his name is pronounced, as well as his own twin. I think seeing the dynamics between those characters, it is so well written. Um, it's something that I wish we had a little bit more with the main trio from like Jujutsu Kaisen, but considering that like the plot events happened between them, you know, we didn't get as much as we could have shared between those three, because somebody was always being taken away from those three so that they couldn't interact more. But I think it's really well written here. And there are stakes. Like there are it's heavy stuff with a lot of these characters. Like it's like I I, I I wish I had more time to explain it, but like it's and better words to do so, but it does a lot really well, which makes it surprising that like it's coming off of the heels of Jujutsu Kaisen, because a lot of people had complaints with how that one went and wrapped up and whatnot, but it's a good sequel. I genuinely think it is one of the better manga sequels, and as somebody that reads manga sequels, this one's a good one.
I really sympathize with like wanting to try to explain more why it's good, because Modulo is really dense, and there's a few chapters in particular I've gone back to and just reread, and just like, well, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of discussion on so many different topics, that is also topical, and then Gege is writing about all of this on like micro and macro levels, how we coexist and communicate between each other as siblings, between each other as countries, and then to a bigger science fiction angle with aliens as well. It being about aliens was my instant card to be like, oh, okay, this is for me. I really like aliens. The X Files does come from the X Files, but I think Gig is handling it really well. How he's established the Rumelians as well, and how complicated this whole entire alien race and their ecosystem. Like he's established that in a short series and then brought it over to Earth, and is doing all this stuff and integrating old JJK stuff with that as well is crazy. Like how everything is complicated, but it's fitting together really well. I also like how the old stuff isn't too much of the focus, and I think we're getting snippets of it, but like Yuji isn't coming in to become the main character or anything, which I hope won't ever be the case, because there's a good point to be made with this to maybe say like this is about the next generation of people, so we don't really need to see the past stuff. On a meta level, I find Modular really interesting because Togashi is a huge influence on JJK, and you have Togashi who did Yu Yu Hakusho, and that got more complicated as it went on, and then he published Level E, which is a short sci-fi odd jump series, and then Gege is doing the same, does his long battle shonen. It gets weird and complicated towards the end, and then we get a short sci-fi weird series. Yeah, really didn't expect to enjoy this as much as I had, and I think that seems to be the case with a lot of people.
I mean, I think it shows like Gege is able to write a good story, and I know a lot of people
Absolutely.
have been. When I did that tweet, a lot of people were attacking people, not just me, because there are a lot of people that were trashing JJK's story. But I personally, I don't think the problem was always necessarily the the themes or the story or the characters. It does get too much convoluted because of how long it is and the way that Kiki writes stories. I think a short story is always gonna be not necessarily better, but more concise. And the fights, man. But I'm not gonna go into that today because we have one other manga
We'll
to
be
talk
here a
about.
while.
Yeah. And it's not relevant for Modulo. Oh, just there were a lot of people asking why Modulo is on this list, and to me, it fits. It is a new series. It's not a rookie, which I've called. Probably not gonna do this year, just so people don't comment. But I call rookies this. Sure, it's not a rookie because it is a sequel, but it is a new series, so to me it counts.
The asterisk is there.
Yeah.
The asterisk is there.
But I still think it fits the list and the video, the kind of video that we're doing. Number one, you know which one it is. It's Someone Earth's 266 positive points, 18 negative. It got a total of 248. It's number one on the voters list. It's number one on Axel. It's number one on Crash, and then Trenton had to ruin it with number four.
Okay, I can forgive that a little bit though, because
Yeah.
it's not like he put this at the bottom, but
No.
Oh,
he's
no.
still wrong.
No, this deserves to be number one, like fully to clarify. I just need to push my own agendas.
That's fair.
Yeah, terrible.
I love Someone Earths. There's one thing. I'm gonna die from saying this, but there's one thing with number one, number 13 that have in common that people have mentioned a lot, which is the jokes. A lot of them not being funny. I think it works with Someone Earths because they're not. I mean, they could. Some of them are funny, but the jokes that not Mei Mei, the girl is Mei Mei's the guy.
Kurage.
Kurage? The
Yep.
jokes that she says, I don't think the most of them are meant to be funny. As someone who is a lot like her in a lot of ways, there are more jokes just to, just to uplift the mood, just to be funny for yourself, and just see the reactions. That's the why I say a lot of unfunny jokes, and she gives me the exact same vibe of why she does that. And I love the duo. They're so good together. They're so cute. Obviously, we're going to get to a point where it's going to be dragging a lot, and they're never going to make a move. And I mean, maybe not. Blue Box avoided that, and other manga have avoided that and can do that. But I also believe that it may happen. But so far, I think the evolution of them has been somewhat realistic. It's clear that he likes her. It's clear that she likes him. But the relationship that they have right now works just as fine. And man, I think it's mostly that, like, how cute everything is, the vibes of these characters. I like how they're like. I was kind of afraid of how are they going to implement the radio show into the plot in that first chapter. They've done it tremendously well. Like, each chapter, there's a prompt. We're gonna do something about that prompt. The shenanigans ensue, and it's good. It has a Bakuman aspect to it, or a sports manga aspect to it, of like a competition, and like it has so many elements that are just they combine like so well, and they're just so good. And yeah, it's easily my favorite series of the year. No contest. I love it a lot.
I also think it's really good. It is lower down for me though. I think the only reason why it's like 4 and not 1 is that there's less of a personal click for me. I think it's super solid. The chemistry between Mizuo and no, Mizuo is Kurage. Mime and Kurage. It's really good. It's really, really strong. It's so natural. It's funny. The way it's drawn is really cute, and it looks very unique. It also has this nice vibe when they're like around at night, like listening to the radio together. Really, really nice. The comedy aspect I appreciate a lot of the time, but I do have found there are some chapters now and again which do feel like they just rattle on the jokes a bit too much, and I kind of feel a little nothing, which maybe drags it down a bit. But otherwise, it's a lot of fun, and I think this is just going to be around for a long time because everyone seems to like it, and Jump are pushing it on. The integration actually, with it being about radio shows, has a lot of room for them to do tons of stuff, like put the Hertz duo on a radio show or do interviews. I think they've already collaborated a little bit like that. There's the YouTube channel that they just released where there's like lo-fi stuff going on. I think is really interesting. So there's some very clever ways they can like market it or integrate it into different things, which is really cool to see. completely understand why like everyone has fallen in love with it. It's especially charming.
It's definitely sticking around too, because like the Shoseki results, the daily Shoseki results were popping through, and um, it debuted first day at number 6, and that was the same ranking that Ichi the Witch had for its day one. So it's safe to say that Someone Hurts is sticking around, and it will stick around for quite some time. Um, it Another big indicator of that though too was the plot. The fact that Mime did not make it into that listener quotient was a good thing. They're not rushing it. They're not like trying to make it so that like he is already on Karage's level, because he's not. They're taking their time with it, and like I think that is a good sign, because yeah, had this series been on the track to being axed, he absolutely would have made it into this listener quotient. So it's a good thing that he didn't. Um, but I think that's just because people can feel how genuine this manga feels. Like it does not feel forced. And I shouldn't I say it doesn't feel forced in the general sense. Depending on how you feel about comedy and whatnot, sure, there might be some chapters where like it just feels like a machine gun kind of thing. But I mean, when you're riffing with your friends, that just kind of happens. Like if you're like having a bunch of jokes with people, or you are in that zone for it, that's just kind of what happens. To the point that Crash made earlier, the reason why this one succeeded where Nice Prison did not is that because Mime plays a fantastic straight man character. Every time that he is reacting to something that Kurage does or says adds to the joke. He is not for some of them he's explaining the joke. If it's something where like it's a play on words or whatnot, like that kind of happens, which at least for those of us in the English audience or just the non-Japanese audience, yeah, we need that explanation sometimes, especially if it's a certain play on words that makes more sense based on like the Japanese language of how it's spoken or written. But he does a really good job of adding to the jokes, and that's why it works. That being said, some of the stuff that Kurage says is just funny. Like my personally, one of my favorite jokes is the one where she says, "I'm like the drummer of Man with a Mission," which for those unfamiliar, that's a band in Japan where like all of them wear wolf heads for all of their performances and whatnot. So I thought that was a fantastic joke. Like, but no, I just genuinely enjoy the series, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here, to see whether or not it evolves past the radio show. There's part of me that wants it to evolve similar to Shoha Shoten, where like, part of why Kurage wants, somebody to be funnier than her, or at least in her mind, is, maybe they form their own comedy duo themselves one day. Like that's something that I want to see more of, because while I will enjoy if it keeps doing like the radio show angle, I think if it wants to do more, that is potentially the way to do it. um so again, just a potential prediction on my end. The one last thing I wanted to say is that I love all of their nicknames and whatnot. I think that's just another fun element of it. The fact that like even like our main characters, we've got Eel, Potato, and Owl in the Woods. The names that they were shouting off or saying for the who qualified for the listener quotient, I think that's all really fun. Um, and overall, yeah, this absolutely deserves to be number one in a year of series where there was a lot of just this is genuine. Other than, I don't want to say that Modulo is necessarily a success of Saito's, the current editor in chief, like just because it's a sequel to Jujutsu Kaisen. Let's not forget that it is a sequel of a series that started before he was editor-in-chief. And I don't necessarily count Ichi the Witch either, because that was potentially a deal that was struck prior to him becoming editor-in-chief. This is the first genuine success that we're getting from Saito. Like, you could potentially say that for Kyoshi and Shinobi and Himaten, because they're moderate successes. Like, they're the under 20k club. But I think this is the first series under Saito's belt that we're going to get a manga that is selling well past 20k with each volume release. So this is his first genuine success.
Yeah, I do agree with going a bit back with what you said about them becoming a comedy duo. There's one chapter where she's like throwing jokes at like with girls from school and they're non-reacting, and then he reacts, and that chapter to me felt like, yeah, that's where I'm not sure if it's gonna be a big portion of the manga, but that feels like that's the end game of
the natural
series.
progression.
Yeah.
Like them becoming a manzai duo.
Yeah.
Not that I know much about that, but their relationship, their back and forth is that. And it also, on the funny names, Someone Hurts is probably going to be their duo name. That's what I thought from the very beginning. It feels very obvious.
Yeah.
It's a silly, it's a silly kind of quirky pun name.
Yeah.
And it translates to their origin of, them hearing, the show on the radio with Hertz waves.
It's a good series. I love it a lot. I'm happy. When I started doing the list, I was not expecting to be number one for everyone else, especially not the voters list.
Proud of you, voters. You did good.
Yes, I'm really happy. It was the success that it is being. But yeah, that was the list. We've been recording for too long. Probably longer than the video is because my neighbors were...
Gets longer every year.
Yeah, it does. This year I think we did have one more manga than last year as well. That happens. But yeah, I hope you guys had fun. I hope you watched till here. Let me know which one was your favorite. So rank your lists. I know some people do that. It is fun to see your opinions. Let me know. And subscribe to these two guys here. And if you came from their channel, because we're doing something a little bit different that YouTube allows now, subscribe to me. I'm cool.
Yeah, subscribe to Crash. I wouldn't be here without Crash.
And we will likely be here next year to do this again because it's fun. And I enjoy it a lot. I think you guys do it as well.
It's a great tradition.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say before we leave?
I hope 2026 has some good stuff from Jump. Excited to see what's coming up.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to recapping 2025, although my own state of Jump for 2026 is currently delayed because I'm waiting to see what the hell happens, because there's a lot of stuff going on, man.
There's always something happening, which sucks. But yeah,
well, no, there's a lot of good stuff going on. It's just
it sucks for the video to be updated, not be aged by the time it comes out. That's what I mean. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you're still here, thank you very much, and I'll see you next video.
Bye.
Bye-bye.